they categorize it into a spam. So what is it basically? There is some data and they are using some logic, and based on that logic, they are categorizing the mails. Now you can see there is an option of auto reply as well. So that is data. But uh, the title is data science, data analytics and AI. Why AI? Because if you look at any applications wherein you are making your data into information, somewhere down the line you are using artificial intelligence. You are using artificial intelligence to categorize those emails into spam or updates or primary, or somebody is still unmuted. I think Achita
Ma'am,
Tapan
everyone
Kumar
is
Das.
muted right now.
No. Tapan Kumar Das, Tina Vats, they are unmuted. If you go
Ma'am,
down
I
the
believe
passage.
they have not joined their audio.
Okay,
I have muted all the participants.
right. Thank you. So I was talking about AI. So whenever there is any information that is there, uh, you use AI by default to categorize those things into, maybe uh, maybe primary or updates or promotion or spam. You use AI. So that is why the topic was chosen as data analytics and artificial intelligence. I'll come to the second slide now. So if we go to Google and see what data science is basically, okay, why I have exclusively put up this slide. Uh, Data science is considered to be a branch which is for computer science and IT people. They are supposed, whenever we say data analytics, the first branch that comes to our mind is computer science or IT. But if you go on Google and search, or you speak to any person who is working on data science, he or she will say that it's not computer science or IT. It's so much interrelated to many disciplines that you just cannot categorize it into a single field. So if you go to Google and you find what data science is my mouse visible to you? The pointer visible to you?
Yes,
On
ma'am.
Right. So if you look at this second paragraph, it is a concept to unify statistics, data analytics, informatics to understand and analyze actual phenomena. Mathematics, statistics, computer science, information science, domain knowledge. Whole paradigm is empirical, theoretical, computational. So if you talk about it is not computer science. It is primarily mathematics. It is primarily statistics. It is domain knowledge. It is basically the IQ of a person. All these things mixed together, you put it into some computer program, some information science thing, and you say that it is data science. So what we say is that the foundation of data science is basically mathematics and statistics. There is a lot and lot of data, and you try to make sense out of it. You have data sets. From those data sets, you do your data analysis. You put your optimization algorithms, data mining, and your machine learning. They make patterns out of it, and all these patterns, they can be used for different purposes. One of the purpose can be to understand the behavior. One of the purpose can be to know increase your sales. One of the purpose can be forecasting, and all. And one very good example that an application of data science is, it is a very good example. If you read any book on data mining and all, they will start with a example wherein they do a survey of a particular what you call a shopping mall or something kind of some grocery mart kind of thing, wherein 24/7 kind of thing, wherein everything is available. So one of the that particular place 24/7. I'm just using a random name 24/7. It can be any XYZ shopping mall. So they did the analysis that the sales are not, as per the mark, and they should increase. Obviously, whosoever is sitting for business, they want the sales to go up, the profit margins to be up. So they tried doing many things, but it did not work. The sales were still not up, and they were as usual. Then they asked a particular organization to survey it and tell them the placements, and so that they can have better sales. So they came and they just visited the place, and what they observed was that in the shopping that complex, everything has been put up. Maybe some things were put up in a very organized manner. Grocery along with the grocery, vegetables along with the vegetables, and maybe fruits with the fruits. Beverages were put together, but still it was very organized. But the sales were not up. What to do? So this person, this guy who was approached to help them out in increasing the sales. This basically example is from a foreign land. So I'll have to quote that. So what they did was uh, just next to the, there was a place for beer bottles as well, the hard drinks as well. So what they did was they put up chips and all over there. They put up surprisingly, uh, uh, place was created which could have diapers over there. So the diapers were there. It was very unusual, diapers along with the the hard drinks and all. So actually those shopping mall people, they were also surprised, what is this, and this cannot be done. Said, let's try this out, keep it, and then we will see. Okay, it was done, and within 1 week the sales were up. Why the sales were up? Because obviously when you have young kids, either the father goes shopping, or when the father goes shopping, there can be two scenarios. The father goes shopping for the diaper, and he says, okay, let me also have a good time, and he purchases a hard drink for himself. Or maybe it can be the other way around. He went on to purchase the hard drinks, and he saw that these are diapers, there are diapers also, and maybe the kid may disturb, so let me buy a pack of it. So that way they targeted, they make some placement so that the sales goes up. Within 1 week the sales went up. And the similar model you can you see in India also. We don't have those combination that I talked about it, but once you go to any shopping or area, maybe it's a shopper stop or a lifestyle or west side, anywhere near those billing counters, you will find small goodies over there. They will not cost you much. They will be 100 rupees, 200 rupees, or 300 rupees. It can be a deo bottle. It can be, nowadays masks are there near the billing counter. It can be girls tic tac or maybe something. So you tend to pick up, is the cost care, let me take it. It's not costing you much. And you can also see one typical, since I have small kids, so I could see that the moment it is the billing counter, a customer is supposed to be standing there maybe for 4 or 5 minutes, even if there is no queue. It takes 4 to 5 minutes for the complete billing. And in those 4 to 5 minutes, in case you are, shopping with your kids, you will find tiaras and hair bands and tic tacs and something, or some small teddy bears putting that has been set over there. So obviously in those 4 or 5 minutes the kid will get the chance to make a tantrum, and you ought to buy it before a scene is created over there in the shopping mall. So it's basically, it's all because of the data science. It's all because of, data mining. They try to correlate the things. They try to see the things that will matter and that will help them boost their sales. So this is how they do it. And if I go back to the previous slide, that is why, this domain knowledge has been kept over here. That apart from whatever things, apart from mathematics, statistics, or AI, or computer science, whatever you want, the one thing that you want along with this is the domain knowledge. The person who is applying data science, he or she should have a fair knowledge of the application area. This, the moment I change the, the context of shopping area to maybe a temple, the entire, scenario will change. Over there, it won't be your tiaras or anything. It will be basically your फूल माला नारियल प्रसाद और उसके साथ आप हमेशा देखोगे what you will have is a toy shop. So kids are always a soft target, or you can say that the parents have a soft corner for their kids, so they don't want a scene to be created. They end up paying up some money to buy a small or a big toy because it is placed next to the place of essentials. So the kid understands it, and that's how the data science works. So it's basically using data mining and artificial intelligence, and it uses historical data to make future predictions. That's how with small, simple placements, you make a future prediction. Okay, by doing this, we may have a good sales. You build models on the historical data and so on, and you learn the patterns. And there, these are the scenarios wherein, I have discussed that the sales went up. There can be a different combination which did not work at all. So in that case, you learn from the mistakes, you make a pattern. Okay, this combination is not going. For example, if you put non-veg meat and chicken counter next to the vegetables, it will be all right for the non-vegetarian person. But if you talk of a vegetarian person, he will never go to that section and buy the vegetables because the smell of the non-veg will make him so irritable that he says, I'll take it from somewhere else, but I cannot go and buy it from here. So you learn from the patterns and mistakes, and you build some some architecture, some combinations that work and some combinations that do not work. That's how you categorize. So when we talk about this data science, if you look at this diagram, there are three circles that has been depicted, and they are merged into each other, making a Venn diagram. And it has computer science and IT, which takes a major part. Maths and statistics take the next major part. And then we have domain and business knowledge. Till the time we don't have this domain and business knowledge, CSIT, mathematics, statistics, they are not going to help you out. And in between, these intersections, you have machine learning, you have data science, the software development is there, and the traditional research is there. So this traditional research in itself is a part of your domain and business knowledge. Because of this traditional research only, your business will grow or will collapse. So all of these, they make a data science. Data science in itself is not one complete area. It is an interdisciplinary area, and we need expertise, or maybe we need the knowledge for all the small subsections so that we can be a good data science engineer. Now, again, as such, I said that this data has been there since decades, but this data science is something that is coined in the recent past. There are few sayings from very renowned researchers and teachers. It says that data is the new oil, AI is the new electricity. Who is building the new railroads? I mean, all of us know today's our life is incomplete without electricity, without oil. We need gas, we need electricity, we need oil. So we have the data. AI is the electricity. Without AI, data in itself is incomplete. This is what I said in the starting also. somewhere down the line you tend to use AI, to make it work, to convert the data into information. So who is building the new railroads? Obviously, data science engineers. Similarly, a second saying says, data is the new oil, it's valuable, but if unrefined, it cannot really be used. That's what I've been saying, that, data needs to be converted into information. Without that, applying that science, your data is all gibberish to you. It has to be changed into gas, plastic, chemicals, etc., to create a valuable entity that drives profitable activity. So data must be broken down, analyzed for it to have value. Just hold on, I'll take some more. And similarly, the third saying goes, information is the oil of 21st century, and data analytics and AI are the combustion engines. So when we talk of data science, what we have to do with the data is basically we have to do the data research. We have to have data technologies. The statistical computing part will be there, and they must be applied to real world applications. And of all these things, it won't be complete, or you won't be able to make sense out of data till the time while doing the analysis you do the visualization part. Because the moment you convert that, there can be an Excel sheet that have thousands and thousands of entries. It may not make sense to you till the time you visualize it. You plot a graph, you plot a bar chart, or any visualization tool that is required, that can plot the data well. So till the time you don't visualize it, you won't understand the data completely. So if you go to, if you talk to the companies nowadays, once they get some student on job, in the first 3 or 6 months training, they do train them on data visualization tools. And in our university, we have been talking to industry experts for change in curriculum so that our students, they are updated as per the current trends and all. So they specifically say that you need to have some 1 credit or 2 credit course wherein students do the data visualization part. They say if it is not there online, we are ready to come to the campus and we are ready to give an introduction to the visualization tools to the students. But everybody must know about it. It is so important. So again, when we are talking about data, this I have already discussed, that data we have in different forms all around us. We have numerical data, we have image data, we have video data, sound data, and text data. What you are listening, or what you are going to the processes, you are in the process of processing some sound data. It is an audio data. I am having a talk with all of you. How much information you want to, this data is to be converted into information by you. If I talk about the participants, there are somewhere around 80, 90 participants. So everybody will process the data in a different way. They will, create information from it to a certain extent. Somebody will completely grasp it. Somebody may listen for 5 minutes or 10 minutes and make the information. But uh, for, for others who are not processing the information, this is just the data. We have text data. We have text data is all around, we have tweets, comments, feedback, and the young generation, they are more into these Twitter and Instagram and Facebook kind of things. They must be knowing, and students are doing project also on social media analysis. What is the social media analysis? Basically, through this Twitter, Facebook, and all, there are tweets that are being done. And in engineering colleges, many projects are being done which basically categorize these tweets into maybe on a polite note, on a hatred note, on a political tweet, or maybe, an appreciation tweet, or maybe a depressing tweet or something like that. They categorize it, and if it is a depressing tweet, there are now different organizations that have been there whose work is just to detect these depressing tweets, and they know that that person is into depression. There may be a chance that he or she may take a wrong step. So these organizations, they are basically NGOs. They work on the tweet analysis. They identify those tweets and try to trace that person, speak to him or her, and try to help them come out of depression so that no wrong step is taken. So it's again data available on the web, and we are processing it, making it into information. For you it may be a redundant information. There are thousands of tweets on the web daily. It is just a data for you. But for an NGO who is into tweet analysis and trying to, help the people in distress, for them, they apply data science and convert it into an information, a useful information for them. Similarly, when we talk about feedback and comments that helps a person, a restaurant maybe, to improve upon their recipes and to improve upon their uh, uh, customers experience for their particular place and all. This is how they process the entire data. Similarly, when we talk of video data, we have video data again all around us. Uh, and if any one of you is working on medical data, you can see that even these angiographies and all, they're all video data. They're all video data, and you define them with frames per second and all. You process that data with angiography only. A doctor finds out that is there any problem in the heart or is it all right? And again, it is data. For us, it will be some gibberish because we won't be able to understand the human anatomy. But the doctor processes it and converts it into an information for themselves. So that is how all these data are being used. So when we talk about this data, I'll come to data science and AI a little later. Let me talk about the type of data. When we say that it is a data, we basically categorize into two broad categories. One is the structured data and another one is the unstructured data. Structured data means it is a structured data. For example, if it is an Excel file, maybe if I say an Excel file and a Word file, both of them, they contain the same information. For me, I have a class of 50 students. In the Word file, what I'll do is I'll say roll number 1, and along with this, there is no table over there in the Word file, and maybe Archita, branch, year, roll number, marks, first semester, second semester, third semester, and so on. Similarly, for roll number 2, I will do, roll number 3, I will do, and so on. So it may be, a type of data, but the same data, when it is transformed into a different way, for example, I make an Excel file out of it, and what I do is I create different columns. One of the column is for name, the another for a roll number, then branch, we have a different column. Year, we have a different column. Then semester wise percentage is at a different column. So it is the same data, but what you have done is you have made it into a structure. A structure is there wherein if I ask you what is the total CGP or SGP of the student, what is to be done is you have to add up all those 5-6 columns and calculate the percentage. Suppose if I have to search for the percentage or the year of a particular student, I will just press Control F, search the student's name and get the details. So you have converted that unstructured data into a structured data, because structured data is always, easy to work with. There are patterns that you can make out of it. If I ask you in first semester which student had the maximum percentage and what was the name of the student, it is very easily searchable in a Excel file which is made in a structured manner, rather than in a Word document without the table. In Word document also you can structure it, but I'm talking of a scenario wherein it is kept in an unstructured format. So structured data is always easy to work with. They have a specified data types. For example, for some it will accept a numeric, for some it will accept alphabets, for some, for example, if it is a PAN number, they can take alphanumeric and so on and so forth. But when we talk of about unstructured data type, they don't have any defined data types. It can be numeric, special characters, alphabets, everything, merged into one. And you need a lot of time and energy to make it into a structure. And then, till the time your data is not structured, we cannot put any kind of analysis into it. We cannot apply any science till the time it is structured. So they have undefined data types. So whenever you are, converting your unstructured data into a structured data, you first need to find out how many data types are there, how many entries are there, and what should be the minimum or maximum range. There is one point wherein all the data scientists, they struggle a lot, and that is basically cleaning the data. For example, I'll come to that cleaning the data section a little later. But cleaning the data basically means, for example, let's suppose there is a section of, there is a Google form wherein, you have to enter male or female, and what you do is you just enter 5. So it is not acceptable in the, male, female, or a transgender. It is 5 is not acceptable. What does 5 indicate? So for a data science engineer or an analyst, this is basically data which is, not clearly defined, and they take a lot of time to clean the data, to remove such kind of entries, and then there are mechanisms wherein they have set mechanisms defined that whether they have take a default value for this, or they have to just remove those entries from the data, and how these things to be handled. Because once you take a default value, or once you omit that particular data entry, everything has a cost attached to it. The entire analysis that you are supposed to do will get a little fluctuating from the original analysis that should have been there. An easy example of this unstructured data is social media. For example, if there is a tweet or a Facebook post or maybe Insta, what you will have is you will have some text data, you will have some numeric data, you will have emojis, you will have some special characters. So everything will be there. And it's not that कि एक tweet होगा या उसका comment होगा तो it will be all alpha, or it will be all numeric. It will be a mix of everything. And what to do then? So this unstructured data is very difficult to deal with. It is not easily searchable. It is very difficult to search through that data. It is difficult to understand and organize. And the examples are this. At the same time, I would like to add over here, because of this unstructured kind of data, obviously when it's a Twitter or an Instagram, you cannot ask the person to comment in a tabular manner so that everything is gets compiled into in an Excel file and make it structurable or anything like that. But since what you can just uh, refer, or you can just relate to it, I just said in the previous slide, I guess, that there are NGOs who are working on the tweet analysis. they are trying to find out if there is any depressing comment or anything, any tweet like that, and they then track that person and try to help him or her out. And at the same time, in the next slide, we are seeing that this is an unstructured data, and it is very difficult to search within the data and analyze this data. So how can there can be two contradictory things for one single thing. So I request anybody, if somebody can answer this. You can please raise your hand and the host will unmute that particular person. In case you have any idea that on one slide I was saying that NGOs are working for, on tweet analysis. And at the second time, on the second slide, I'm saying that it is an unstructured data and it is very difficult to deal with this data. Then how come it is being done? Achita, has anyone raised their hand?
No, ma'am.
Okay, do you have any idea, Achita?
Ma'am, I'm not sure about this.
Okay, Sakshi, what about Sakshi?
Ma'am, we have one question from one of our participants. It is
Okay.
which technique is
Okay.
used to clean unstructured data?
Pardon, can you repeat that?
Sure, ma'am. Ma'am, one of our participants is saying that which technique is used to clean unstructured data?
Okay, you can please unmute that participant, and there
Sure,
is one
sure.
Aditya Rao also, he is raising his hand.
Sure, sure.
हाँ वो मुझे पता लगा कोई बात नहीं ठीक है हो गया 5 सेकेंड तो ये गया
Ma'am, is it audible?
Yeah, sure. You are Aditya.
Yeah, ma'am, I'm
Yes,
Aditya. And
Yes, sir, tell me.
as you said, for the in the case of Twitter, the user ID is unique, right?
Right.
So based on that user ID, we can trace them.
No, we can trace them. But my question is, in the last slide, if I go back to my previous slide, over here, I told you that, this text data tweets, these are being analyzed to find out that whether the person has sent a depressing comment or something like that. And in the second slide, I am saying that this tweets, text files, social media postings, they are unstructured data and it is very difficult to analyze these data. So if it is very difficult and challenging to analyze this data, how come the NGO people, they are even able to identify that it is a depressing post? We'll do the tracking once we identify it as a depressing post. But the first part is to deal with this unstructured data.
They will find out some keywords from the unstructured data, ma'am, so that if the keywords are there in some for in the text or tweet or somewhere, so that they will identify that.
Okay, right. Very near to the correct answer. So they will using NLP. Dr. Pranati Rakshit also answered it. Like the data from Facebook was analyzed by Cambridge Analytica, right? So there are good answers that I've been getting. So at least I am sure that there are some participants who are listening to, to the talk and they are just not logged in and, went off. So thank you, Aditya sir, Ajit Singh, and everyone who has answered. You can mute yourself, sir. I'll just share uh, one one website with you. It is from Google itself. That will help you for Sakshi and Archita also, who are here. They are our students, BTech students, and they have been placed into Microsoft. So their value depends on independent variable. Right. There is a concept of contextual data. For example, if I talk about Aditya sir told that there are certain keywords that, they will identify. For example, Sakshi, can you help me rephrase a comment? Let's suppose there is a restaurant that I have visited and I say, uh, mm, maybe I want to give some feedback for the food that I received. So what can I say?
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, Sakshi, you are audible.
Yes, ma'am. Can
What
you
kind
please
of
repeat?
comment?
Yes,
See,
ma'am.
I have visited some restaurant, okay,
Okay.
and I want to give a feedback to the restaurant person about the food or maybe the service.
Okay.
So what can I say? You have to give maybe 1 or 2 line comment, and that should give a feedback about the service as well as the food.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am,
What
we can
kind
give
of?
feedback about the service and then like how is the quality of the food and all that stuff.
Let me give you an example. For example, I say I just had an awesome experience at so and so restaurant. Yeah, somebody replied that we can give a rating. Yeah, can sentiment analysis play a part? Okay, let me read out the comment for you. For example, I visited some restaurant and I said I had an awesome experience. The food was delicious, but the food was delicious. I wish the service would have also been good.
Okay.
Okay,
हाँ जी मैम.
right. So this is some comment which says कि मेरा experience अच्छा है,
Yes,
खाना
ma'am.
delicious है, and service. Now I want to say it would have been good if the service would also have been, excellent or good. I did
Right.
not say that the service was poor,
Right.
but what I mean is कि service अच्छी नहीं थी. So
Right.
when
Right.
we do analysis for this textual data or maybe the feedback or the comment data, so what they do is like Aditya sir told that they look for certain keywords
Yes,
and
ma'am.
based on those keywords, they categorize it into a positive comment, negative comment or a depressing comment. He
Right.
is very right. We look for those keywords. And
Right.
earlier this thing was being done. Now what has happened is when we were searching for these keywords, now if you look at the the comment or the feedback that I have given, it will definitely take it into a positive comment
Right.
for experience also, for food also, for service also. But the actual scenario is food is good, experience is good, service is poor.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
actually, it should have been categorized like that. So when we were doing all the analysis based on those keywords, uh, there were certain comments or feedbacks which were not, we say that they are false positives or maybe they are true negatives. They are not what they meant. So they change the accuracy of our system. So
Right.
that is how somebody has commented that sentiment analysis, does sentiment analysis has a role to play? Yes, sentiment analysis has a role to play. And basically in this, for these kind of things, whenever we are, dealing with unstructured data, we are dealing with textual unstructured data. Instead of looking for single keyword, we look for the context.
Okay.
We look for the context of the sentence. So, and then context can be taken from 2 words, 3 words, or 4 words. So whatever talk I'm giving, it is not purely on the basis of uh, textbooks or the Google. It has the backing of research papers as well. So when this contextual analysis was done, and it was found that even after taking context from 2 words or 3 words, uh, yeah, this research has been a part of Google. So they took 2 words or 3 words, they tried to analyze the context and categorize it in a proper manner where it should have been. Uh, Things were doing fine, but still there are certain long sentences or maybe the paragraphs wherein the context suddenly changes. So as of now, on the basis of 10 words, the context has been taken into account. It is there in the research papers. slowly and steadily they are, trying to increase the, the number of words that they can consider for making a context out of a sentence. So whenever we are dealing with unstructured data and unstructured data, we do the contextual analysis, and there are ways to get it done also. I will just share one good example through the through a website, but let me first go to the, right now I'm talking only about the data. This data will not make any sense till the time, we use some AI into it, machine learning into it, and make sense out of it. So the moment I am into data science and AI slides, I'll just open one of the Google links and I will show this a very good example of this contextual analysis. So, this is what we have discussed as of now, structured and unstructured data. Then if I come to the next slide, the way we have divided into structured and unstructured data, we can divide into qualitative and quantitative data. As the name indicates, quantitative data is basically where you are dealing with the numbers. Number of students in a class, number of workers in a company, number of home runs in a baseball. Just pardon me, all the participants, there are certain slides that I have taken from the Google, and I have not, written the source over here, but this slide and the previous slides, this one, I have downloaded it from the Google. As a speaker, as a researcher, I should have mentioned the source, but due to exigency of time, that has not been done. So I'll just come back. So we have quantitative data and a qualitative data. So whenever we are talking of quantitative data, that means we are talking about numbers, the discrete data or the continuous data. As engineers, we all know, as mathematicians, we all know discrete data means the integer part. There are 10 students in the class, there are 20 girls in the class and 30 boys. There is never 20.2 girls and 30.5 boys. It is always a discrete data. But when we talk about, the height of a child or maybe the area of a room, so these are all, continuous data, the speed of cars. So all these are continuous data. The child height can be, 5 feet and 2 inches. It can be 3.2 meters. It need not necessarily be discrete data. But in case of number of girls, number of boys, number of houses in a apartment, they are always discrete data. Similarly, when we say qualitative data, so we simply means that they are not dealing with numbers. It has some values. Some we say fuzzy values. The weather is good, the weather is bad. It is a pleasant weather, it is a sunny weather, and so on. The hair color is blonde, brown, white, black, anything. The area where they reside, the economic status, it can be low, middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class. Now they have so many of categorizations. You have your, ordinal, we call it as ordinal data. My house is 5th in the row. For example, if I talk about my apartments and all, I reside at the 5th floor. I reside at the 7th floor. So that's all. This is all qualitative data. In qualitative data, we have nominal data, fuzzy values, or we have ordinal data, but they are not the numbers. Your CGPA, your grades are, categorized under the ordinal data. Now, when we talk about this data, we have read that there are different types of data: sound, text, image, video, and so on. This data is categorized into structured and unstructured format. They have to be analyzed. Then we have types of data. And we directly or indirectly discussed, yeah, somebody said something?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ma'am, can you elaborate nominal and ordinal data bit more,
Yeah.
like actual difference between them? I can see from the slides that it is like gender, woman or man, and that is classification first, second, third. Like if we take
Right.
cloth size XL, L or double L, that will comes under ordinal data. But
Yes.
what if we take some numerical values and then we try to
See,
categorize it?
okay, if there are numerical values, they will go under the quantitative data, the discrete or the continuous part, depending upon whether it is a floating point number or it is an integer. But if you talk about grades, they will be A, B, C, D, or maybe the size that you have mentioned, large, medium, XL, small. They will be under the ordinal data. If we know, and all this is basically a fuzzy data, which for example, fuzzy data in the sense, in the real sense, they are something else. But whenever we are talking of them, we say it as a relative kind of data. For example, if this ordinal data, I guess everything is clear other than this first, second, and third. Gender, women and men, we have to write some alphabetical values. Women, men, transgender, neutral. When we talk of hair color, there will be plenty of hair color with the the introduction of these hair coloring mechanisms going on. They do mix and match. So these hair colors will be numerous. So similarly, when we talk about ethnicity, then there will be numeral. There will be number of them, and they will be basically word format. Then we have grades also. I'm leaving this first, second, and third part. I'll come back to this again. We have grades. This is again ABC grade. And if we talk about ABC grade, they are also relative in the sense. From the the highest that you achieve, you give them A plus, or outstanding, whatever the highest grade is. And slowly and steadily you go to the F grade. We have F grade, the fail grade. Otherwise, A, B, C, D, and with their plus minus signs, they go on. But when we talk about this first, second, and third, so for them, you can very well, argue over here that it can be a quantitative data, because this is some discrete number. Or over here down, we are talking about discrete data, 1, 2, 3, 4. Over here, it is first, second, third. Other than this, there is no difference. But there are two things to mention over here. Firstly, we are mentioning it as first, second, third. It is not a numeric value. It is an alphanumeric value. With 1, we are writing ST. With 2, we are writing ND. So it is not categorized neither in the discrete data nor in the continuous data. That is one thing. And secondly, again, if you talk about, if I talk about, I don't know from which region of India you belong. We are based in Delhi. But if I talk about Delhi, in independent houses, what the government guidelines are, that earlier it used to be ground floor, first floor, and second floor, and so on. Now the concept of ground floor has gone. It is still parking, and the first floor has become the ground floor, then second, and then third, and so on. So this becomes a relative thing now. The first floor they are referring to is not the first floor, it is the second floor, but as per the residential thing, it is considered as the first floor. So this ordinal thing, if you look at the upper part of the slide, it is basically, you can say, all fuzzy or relative kind of things. But the downsides, the quantitative data that we're talking of, that we are talking of, is basically something that is quantifiable and in front of us in terms of discrete and continuous data. The upper data can have many definitions as per our understanding, as per the understanding of the person who is a data science engineer. It is up to his or her liberty to make sense of this data. I hope that clears. Let me move to the next slide now. Yeah. So when we talk about, before coming to this slide, I was just discussing one thing, that was when we were talking about text, image, audio, video data, what is basically the source of this data. And, The entire web is filled of so many data, so much of data that the sources of data, if we categorize, we have data source of video from आपके जितने OTT प्लेटफॉर्म्स चल रहे हैं वहां पे तो वीडियोस बनाई जा रही हैं, मेडिकल डोमेन में वीडियो है, यू हैव ट्वीट्स, इंस्टाग्राम, यू हैव स्टोरी लाइंस इंस्टा की, एंड फेसबुक पोस्ट्स हैं, दे आर डेटा. And if I'm sure all of you must have, read that this IoT is a buzzword nowadays. It has come up as specialized branch also, specialized subjects also. And what does this IoT basically means? IoT basically means that you are sitting at one place, the operation is being done at one place, but you are trying to control it through some app or maybe some web application or something like that. So that's what you are doing. But you can manage that through an app only when you get the data. So these IoT applications, which are widely spread nowadays, they are also a source of major data generation. You have whatever IoT projects students do, or any IoT application that is being used in practical scenarios, it is generating data. It can be an audio data, it can be a video data, even in medical domain, in the far-flung areas where doctors are not easily available, they are trying to make out the thing so that EEG operation is being done at the remote place and it is being seen in real time by the doctor at some other place of India. So this is an application of IoT. So all this data is being generated. Your window shopping is a source of data. So now when we talk of this data, there are certain things that we have to just see before analyzing it. It is first, the data should be complete. Complete in the sense there should be no missing values. For example, I am analyzing the data of 1,000 students. I cannot find out the topper among those 1,000 students till the time I have the percentage for all the students. Let's suppose one of the student, he entered all the details except percentage for one semester. Now till the time I don't have his or her complete percentage of 4 years, I cannot handle that data. So it is not complete, it is missing. So I have various options to handle this data. One, I completely omit this particular entry. If I omit this particular entry, so that means that girl can never be a topper. Maybe she's a topper, and while entering the details, she missed out entering this one. That can be one. The other one can be, okay, it's a missing data. Let me put a 0 over here. But we cannot put a zero because it won't be a valid data. My entry says it is a percentage, and if the percentage is 0, the girl cannot go to the next semester. So she must have, taken some percentage. So I cannot put a 0. So what do? I'm a data science engineer. Let me put up some false value. Some false value has to be a little greater than, or maybe at least equal to, the minimum passing percentage, whatever 35 or 40% is. I can do 40, but the moment I'll put 40, her percentage for all the 4 years will come down because she might be scoring 80 or 90% in other semesters, and suddenly she receives 40 in one because one data part was missing. Or another way out is take an average of all the semesters that are available and put the average value over there. But in all those cases, I had to take an option because I had to go for a second option of putting 0, 40, or omitting the entry, or maybe taking the average, just because my data was not complete. And I'm just talking of one entry. There can be, out of those thousands, there can be 50 or 60 such entries. So till the time I don't have a complete data, the analysis won't be good. It's something like, you know, whenever you are cooking a good some vegetable or maybe some dinner, till the time you don't have a good recipe and good raw material in hand, the output will not come out to be delicious. So it's something like that. If it is a gibberish data, incomplete data, the analysis will also not be, you know, the reliable analysis. So you want a good data is a complete data. It has to be complete. Similarly, second, quality. Are the records correct or do they contain mistakes? For example, I have already discussed it's a gender, you know, column, and somebody puts a 5 over there. Or maybe, you know, it's a percentage column and somebody puts a 125 over there. So a girl or a boy cannot have 125 percentage marks. It can be 40, 50, 60, anything but less than 100. So the moment you give it a value, an invalid value, the quality of data goes down. Thirdly, quantity of data. Is the amount of data limited? This particular part will come into question, into discussion when I discuss about the AI part. Let me have a bottle. As per the response received during my last question, I could understand that there are certain participants in this group who are working on maybe machine learning, sentiment analysis, or some part of analysis. So they must be aware of deep learning algorithms. There are AI algorithms that we use, machine learning algorithms we use. Nowadays, we are talking about deep learning algorithms. And if I just give you a very rough example, when we talk of AI, we can, you know, work with even with 10 data samples. But when we talk about deep learning algorithms, we require a minimum of maybe 5,000, 10,000 samples. The more the merrier. Deep learning means the more the merrier. If you have 1,000 data samples, it is very less for deep learning algorithm. If you say there are 2,000 or 3,000, again it is very less. In all those scenarios, you have to use data augmentation techniques. And what does this data augmentation techniques means? There is one image or maybe one number, and you apply some operations over it so that it becomes more. I'll give you an example of an image. For example, I'm working on some data which on a deep learning algorithm that takes image as an input. Now in my data set, I have only 500 images. For deep learning algorithm, it is very less. So what do? I will take an image, I will, you know, rotate it by 10 degrees. It will create another image. I will rotate it again by 30, 40 degrees. It will create another. You rotate it, you flip it, it will create multiple copies of one particular image. So it can have, you know, rotation, flipping. You can shift the height and width. You can zoom it. You can change the brightness. So even if 7 operations you apply on one image, so one image will get multiplied by 7. So it will be 7 images. And if you have 500 images, it is less for deep learning. But the moment you apply 7 different operations on a single image, so now it has become 3,500 images. So a little, you know, respectable for a deep learning algorithm, a little respectable. Still, it is not, you know, sufficient. It won't categorize as the sufficient data. So this quantity plays a role. So a good data means you should have sufficient quantity as per the algorithm that you are using, whether it is the AI algorithm or a deep learning or something else. Then the data should be accessible. So let's suppose Sakshi and Archita are here. I asked them to, you know, share some data with me. They shared it very easily. Ma'am, here a Google Drive the link. I have shared it. But let's suppose the access is not given to me to view it or edit it. So that data is not, you know, of any use to me. So the data has to be accessible. Or for example, in these online platforms, the moment it started somewhere 1 year back in March 2020, all of us were a little stuck. Why we were stuck? Because we were working in the offline modes. and the lockdown was announced suddenly. And our important files, they were at our office, and we were under lockdown at home. So the data was there, whatever information we required, it was there, but it was in the office. It was not accessible to us. For that time, the corporate sector, most of them, they work on cloud platforms. For them, the work went without any disturbances, because for them, the data was every time accessible. Second, fifth point is connectivity. Can the different data sets be joined? For example, I have two data sets, one given by Sakshi, another given by, Archita. And can we merge them? The answer may be yes, the answer may be no. There are two Excel files. I can merge them till the time their entries are completely same. Column A corresponds to name, column B corresponds to roll number, column C corresponding to branch, and so on. But the moment the two files, they are different, they maybe one is telling about the pass percentage, the second is telling about the, the class, or the third is talking about the electives chosen. If there are different files, or maybe the same files with one or two different column entries, so can we join them? So if we are merging different data, they should have that compatibility within them. And validity. Does the data contain outliers? Outliers is basically, it's simply when we have small kids, they do an exercise, odd one out. It's simply the odd one out is called an outlier. So you have a basket of, fruits. You segregate them as mango, apples, pears, and suddenly there is one pomegranate, and it is just one pomegranate. Rest, they are into bunches, 12 apples, 10 pears, 40 oranges, and so on, but just one pomegranate. So who is the odd one out? What is the outlier? That pomegranate is the outlier. So that one outlier can change the entire algorithm, the entire analysis of your, data. You want to merge it into a fruit, but which fruit you don't want, whether you should merge it on the basis of, in artificial intelligence, we say they're merged then on the basis of distance metric. We have Euclidean distance, Hamming distance, cosine distance, and so on and so forth, on the basis of which we find out, okay, this is a pomegranate, but this resembles most to which category? Put it over there. So our category कैसे choose हो? You can categorize them on the basis of maybe, color. You say pomegranate is of same color as of apple, so mix it over there. Or you may say that pomegranate is a seed fruit, and maybe there is a pear also. It has many seeds, it's had one seeds. Where to mix it? So there are different distance metrics on which, you can merge the fruits together. You can handle those outliers. They are proper AI algorithms being developed that that help you to handle those outliers. So when we have data, these are the different, this again diagram taken from Google only. This tells what the data does actually, data scientist does actually. It collects the data, it cleans the data, it tries to fit that data into a particular, set format that will help you to maybe describe the data, or maybe the predict the future values or something like that. So that is the job of a data scientist. And if you talk of any data scientist, or you just Google how many work hours or how much effort is taken in predicting something and in cleaning the data. See, it is the same data. You are collecting it, उसी data को आप clean भी कर रहे हो, fit भी करा रहे हो, predict भी करा रहे हो, everything you are doing. For us, we say कि किसी चीज को predict करना is very difficult. So that should take the, major work hours. But if you just Google it, or you talk to any data scientist, you will find out that 80 to 85% of their energy and time and expertise goes into cleaning of data. They collect it and then ये जो cleaning वाला part है, it takes almost 80% of their energy and time, and it takes only 20% to predict the future values. So this cleaning is so important, and all this arises because either your data is incomplete, or it has missing values, or it has invalid values, or any, at times the file is not working. It is not compatible. Data sets are not being joined. So they take 80% time to make that data into a structured, complete form. So 80% is taken to make a data a good data. Once it is converted into a good data, we can analyze it, we can describe the data, we can predict the data, we can make all kind of bar charts and flow charts that we require. This is all about data. Now we'll start with the data science and artificial intelligence, but it's been long. I would like to take a break of, maybe 4 or 5 minutes if it is agreeable to all. Can we take a 5-minute short break, a water break? It's 4 o'clock right now. We'll meet at 4:05.
Sure, ma'am.
Right. Thank you, Sakshi.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Can we start now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
I just looked at the number of slides that I have. They are so much more, and at the pace at which I keep on explaining the things, it will take a lot of time, maybe another lecture. So what I'll do is I'll just straight away go to that contextual data, because once we have discussed that, I would like to discuss that particular topic, and maybe we will see how much time is left. I'll just open up one thing. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Sakshi, I'm sorry, I'm going out of league. I just checked my message. There is one message from a participant who is saying that he is not able to join. Did you receive any sort of message on the WhatsApp group or something?
Let me check, ma'am.
I'll just copy this.
No, ma'am, we haven't received any query like that.
Okay, I'll just send the link to that person.
Sure,
Maybe
ma'am.
he may try my.
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Uh, which site is this? It is a Google Translator. Have you ever used it?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Chalo. Good. It is a Google Translator.
Okay.
It has many languages. If you see the number of languages that it has, I cannot even count, and the Google has developed a translator for them.
Right.
In 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. 18, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 90, and somewhere around you can say 100 languages. You can convert a text into 100 different languages. All right. So whatever text, I hope it will be visible to all the participants. This example I'm taking up specially for the contextual data analysis that I was talking about, the tweet and all. So how they analyze that, or maybe I am not talking about how they analyze that, but I'm giving you an example wherein you can uh, uh, find out that how AI and machine learning they work as per the context of the data. For example, I don't know, had it been just the northern India, it would have been easier for me to take an English language and convert it into, uh, maybe Hindi.
Ma'am, you're not audible.
Yeah, I muted myself. I excused myself for 1 minute.
Sure, ma'am. Sure, ma'am.
See, yeah, it can convert it into 100 different languages. So I'm not telling you how the tweet analysis is done, but I'm just telling you how on the basis of contextual analysis, different applications can be made. This particular application, Google Translator, it uses contextual analysis, and it uses contextual analysis to convert from one language to another. For tweet analysis, you can use contextual analysis to find out, to discriminate it as a love comment, hatred comment, positive, negative, depressing comment. So the basic will be the same, contextual analysis. Next, I was coming ki had it been a northern India part, it would have been easier for me. So I would have taken one English, I could have taken English, and I could have easily converted into a Hindi language, and all will be able to, understand. For people who cannot understand Hindi, there might be some South Indian people, they may or may not understand Hindi. I request them that they can do this exercise parallelly in maybe Malayalam language or maybe in Tamil or whatever language you can understand, maybe Gujarati, whatever. It has Punjabi language also. So you can, take it. For example, if I say he is a boy. I request all of you to just, keep a look on what I'm writing on the left. I'm just writing it on the left, and the right part in itself is being converted. I don't have any role to play in that. He is a boy. वह एक लड़का है. एक simple सा sentence है. Now what I want is, अब मैं इसमें I am making a paragraph out of it. He goes to school. वह स्कूल जाता है. It is also simple क्योंकि he को आप जब वो convert करोगे हिंदी में, वो यही होगा कि वह स्कूल जाता है. He has 2 brothers. Now, if you look at over here, मैंने यहाँ पे तो वही लिखा, ही लिखा, but the translator has not taken it as he. वो he को अभी तक वह ले रहा था. वो बोल सकता था वह 2 भाई हैं या वह, मतलब, but उसने क्या किया, he took the context कि भाई ये he जो यूज हो रहा है वो एक पर्टिकुलर लड़के के लिए यूज हो रहा है, और वो अभी तक, मतलब, that has not changed. राम एक लड़का है, वह स्कूल जाता है, उसके 2 भाई हैं. तो जहां पर उसने कॉन्टेक्स्ट क्रिएट कर लिया, उसने उसको उसके बना दिया. He listens to his parents. और जहां पर उसका वह था उसने वो कर दिया. और अगर मैं इसी को चेंज कर दूं, can you see it is the exact translation of English to Hindi. आप इसका कॉन्टेक्स्ट बढ़ाते चले जाओगे, ये वो लेता चला जाएगा. Can you see how amazing it is? Whatever you write, it will take a context और उसके accordingly वो.
Yes, ma'am.
And वो तब तक, ये देखो यहाँ पर वो तब तक convert नहीं करता जब तक कि वो पूरा नहीं हो जाता.
Right, right.
Now it is trying to find out both किस लिए लिखा है, what is the context, both of, अभी भी उसको context clear नहीं है, both of them, दोनों.
Right.
अब उसको थोड़ा सा context clear हो गया. दोनों है क्या है, अभी भी उसका सेंटेंस नहीं बना.
Yes, ma'am.
दोनों सबसे अच्छे हैं, क्या हैं, दोनों सबसे अच्छे दोस्त हैं. और जहां मेरा फुल स्टॉप लगा, they have put a पूर्ण विराम over there. So this is what, let me see. बाद वाला वाणिज्य कर रहा है. So it is taking the context. And इसमें if you look at it, it can be, जब तक आप एक word लिख रहे हो, it doesn't do anything. आप दो लिखोगे, if it gets a context, तो वो convert कर रहा है. The moment आप three, जैसे जैसे आपका sentence English में पूरा होता जाता है, accordingly वो हिंदी का जो translation है, वो proper sentence making पे लेके जा रहा है. And it is I found it as a very good example wherein it is a amalgamation of your artificial intelligence, your machine learning, the contextual analysis, and the analysis of data, and it is a textual data. So you can do it very well. Similarly, Google has applications jahan par you can just put up an image, it will give you a caption for it. I'm sure all of you must be aware of that. You just put up an image, it will give you an apt option for it. And there are 100 of languages. Let me convert it into, if somebody can, read Gujarati. So they can just verify if it is a, correct translation or not. I cannot read and understand it, so I could verify only English out of English and Hindi out of this. But in written, you take any language. I am sure many of the students over here must have read French or maybe Spanish or some German language. They can check that, and it is just at the click of a button. I mean, it don't even take a second. And it is converted. So this is a very good example of textual data, contextual data analysis, the heights that artificial intelligence, machine learning, they have developed. And to tell you, this is basically done through deep learning algorithms, because it's not a single sentence, or it's not a two sentence on the basis of which it has been done. There's millions and millions of data. I talked about deep learning algorithms. कि आप 100 images ले लो, 1000 images ले लो, they are not sufficient, and so on and so forth. Basically, these the more the merrier वाली बात है. The moment you increase this data into millions of entries, it will help train the algorithm better, and it will give you good results. If your data is limited, it is not sufficient, you won't get a good output. So you want your output to be accurate, then you have to train it with millions and millions of data. And because Google, they don't have any scarcity for data. We as a researcher, when we are working, we look for Kaggle or some other sites wherein we can freely download the data. Good big giants, they don't have dearth of data. Their job is simply data analysis. So they're doing it for image, for word, for numbers, for anything. And this is one of the very beautiful application that Google has developed. And I request all of the participants over here to just try it once. It's a Google Translator. The moment you put it a Google Translator, you will be able to it will take you to the right site. So if I go back to the slides, let me see. I'll just take the last slide. I'll skip all in between, but let me take this slide, the power of artificial intelligence and the power of data analysis, the kind of textual, image, video data. So with that, what does AI knows, and what does AI knows से ज़्यादा ये है कि AI, the companies who are using AI, it can be Google, it can be Amazon, it can be Flipkart, it can be whosoever is sitting into the business on this online platform, they are using AI by default. They are using. There is no denial about that. What does it know? It knows who are you. They know your name. The moment you have a Facebook post or Insta post, they know what's your name. They will immediately send you, they know all your brother, sister, mother, friends, everybody who is there in the circle. You don't share your contact or anything, but from your Gmail account, they extract all the contact and wo aapke paas, they send you suggestions, friend suggestions they send you. So they know who you are. They know who do you know. आप किसी के साथ ऑफिस में colleague हो, they are into your student circle, they are your tuition friends, or even if you have just opened your Facebook or Insta account. I am not on Insta or Twitter, so not aware about all those platforms. But yes, Facebook I have explored once. So I know there is a column, or maybe in LinkedIn, you can say which school did you go, which year did you go, and you will categorically see within no time all your friends of that particular school. You may be 40 or 50-year-old now, but if you're writing of a school that you passed out 30 years back, it will give you all those contacts who are available on LinkedIn or Facebook, and you have your suggestions, and you will be very happy. Oh, through Facebook I came to know of my friend, he's doing so good and blah blah blah. But how did they know about it? It is through artificial intelligence. All your data is being had, all your data is being analyzed. For you, it is again a redundant data, but for them, it is an information. They use it to increase their business. They know what you can afford. If you are looking for a, if you say a watch, it's a simple watch. You search it on Amazon, Flipkart, or any portal. But if you write maybe a Tissot watch, or maybe a Skagen watch, or maybe a Titan watch, तो वो आपको उसी कैटेगरी के उसी प्राइस रेंज के, you have filters on those shopping platforms wherein you can give the price range. Then you will see that if you have chosen a category of 2000 to 5000, so it will give you options for that particular range only. वो आपको 20,000 वाला option नहीं देगा, because his AI, his platform knows that this is what you can afford and this is what you cannot afford. So AI has so much of power. It knows where you are. You have very good, location tagging आप लोग कर लेते हो. WhatsApp pay, you can start from your home, and I'm going to my sister's home. What she will tell me is, share your live location with me. And the moment I share my live location, it's not that she knows me. It's not that she knows where I am currently. It's everybody on the web knows. Everybody means people who are supposed to know. The data analyst from the Google or the Facebook or the Twitter who are sitting over there, जिसके portal के through आपने अपने आप को location tag किया है, they know where are you, what have you purchased in the past, and maybe what do you like, what do you want to purchase in the future, maybe in the next 1 week or 10 days. They know what content do you prefer. For example, my kids, they like watching, animation movies. So whenever I open my Google Pay, YouTube, even if I have to see my content or any video lecture, it will be all filled with, the cartoons. So it's not that I am preferring, but my device, it watches more of animation than of, video lectures. So it gives you that, because the AI behind it knows that what I prefer and who have contacted you. So they, there was when this Aadhaar card is now everywhere in India. When this Aadhaar card system was being launched, and everywhere it was a mockery that soon you will call up a pizza person, and you will, before you say something, they know your order and they will tell you, ma'am, you would like to have to maybe a farmhouse medium size, or maybe a garlic bread, and blah 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 blah. So it's not Aadhaar card. Aadhaar card, again, it has come a lot later. उससे पहले AI ही आपके बारे में सब कुछ जानता है. They know each and everything, because all the data analysts, Indians, they are very highly paid in US, and especially in US, because all these big giants are sitting over there, and they want the data to be analyzed so that the business can be increased. And you just join the dots. They want what? They want data scientists. They want good programmers who can analyze the data and increase the business. And if you, everybody knows that Indians are very good in mathematics. Indians are very good in programming. We are very good in programming. We are very good in mathematics. That is why we are very much highly paid in, US rather than what we are paid in India. So just join the dots. Why are we being paid over there? Because we know mathematics and computer science, which is the basic of data science and artificial intelligence, which is at the end of the day helping them to increase their revenue. That is why Indians are so much in demand. So I think that's all from my side for today. I had plenty of other stuff to share. Maybe if I get a chance during the week, I'll share that time. Otherwise, maybe some other day, some other time. That's all from my end. Now, there are 2, 3, since there are a lot of participants over here, I just, as a coordinator of this FDP, there are a few instructions or advice that I want to give. First of all, we have already shared the timetable with all of you on WhatsApp and the Gmail. We will try to adhere to that timetable. There might be a minor changes in case some expert have some urgency. In case there are any minor adjustments, we will let you know in advance, one day in advance. The link for this for the entire 5 days will remain same. Thirdly, it is requested to all of you that whatever email ID you have used to register for this FDP, kindly use that email ID for logging in every time into the system and for appearing for the test at the last day, because you will be recognized only by your email ID, and every time if you use a different email ID, it will create a lot of problem for generating your certificates, because this Cisco WebEx, we will not be circulating any Google form for the attendance. The Cisco WebEx will automatically take attendance from the email ID that you used for, registering for FDP. जो भी आपने अटल FDP पे email ID दिया है, you are kindly requested to log in daily with that email ID only. There will be no attendance form. The attendance will be taken automatically through Cisco WebEx. And to get a certificate from Atal FDP, there are 3 things to follow. One, you should have an 80% attendance. Second, you should be appearing for a test. And third, you should fill a feedback. This test will be taken up on the last day, that is Friday. This test will be taken up on Friday afternoon around 3:30 after the last lecture. The test, we will try to keep open the test for 5 to 6 hours, so that if there is any network problem or any connectivity issue, it can be taken maybe half an hour, after half an hour. So the feedback has to be done on Atal portal, and attendance will be taken by Cisco WebEx. In case there is any doubt, they can let us know. I could see, I'll just stop sharing. There was some message from the participant, but with the email ID, it's okay to log in as a guest. No, even if you logging in as a guest, you will be logging in as a guest only, because only host of the speaker's mic will be unmuted. So whenever you are logging in as a guest or as a participant, please use the ID that you have used for Atal portal. I may have multiple IDs, but please keep your email ID same. Kirti Sharma, you are using some other email ID for entering into this portal? Okay, whatever email ID you have used for Atal, use that. In case you are using that, we do not have any problem. In case there is a mismatch of, email ID, that will create a problem in the test. Ma'am, name and email ID is mentioned in Atal site is okay. Yes, that is perfectly all right. You can use that. Yeah, you won't be able to unmute yourself because the moment we unmute all the people, then it will create a ruckus. There are very many background noises. In case during any of the sessions you have any doubt that is to be addressed, you can raise your hand. My team is very efficient one. My PhD scholars and my BTech students, they are managing. They will be there as a host. The moment you will raise your hands, they will be there to help you out. The PPTs will be shared, and but not daily after the after the session, because as a organizing team, there are many things that needs to be done at the back end. There are times we are not able to adhere and share the PPTs. So they may be shared at the end, and at the same time, we are, as per the mandate of Atal, we are recording all the videos, and they will be uploaded on the YouTube, and the link will be shared to you. We will try to upload the videos on daily basis, and the link will be shared. But again, I'm saying we will try. Please don't take it as a commitment, because otherwise on WhatsApp group, people start, waiting for the uploading of videos. My team, they are sitting on the system since morning 9 o'clock, and they are addressing the problems on the WhatsApp and Gmail and handling the sessions. So it's almost 5 now. They also need a break. Give us some time and they will be uploaded for sure. I hope all of you will understand and will be patient. The link for joining the session daily will remain same. Tomorrow's session, I think it is again starting at 10 o'clock. If there is
Yes,
anything
ma'am.
else that you can help with, please let me know.
Yes, so if anyone wants to ask any question, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask. You can raise your hand, we will unmute yours. You can also type your queries on the chat.
There is a question on the WhatsApp group that can we have any idea regarding the topic on which we will be assessed during the final test. See, it will be there will be 14 sessions conducted as per the Atal mandate, and you will be there will be MCQ only. There will be 14 sessions, so you can take that 3 to 4 questions per sessions. So around 30-40 questions will be there, and they will be spread from all the sessions. They won't be only from the one session. And one thing that I forgot to speak in between was I talked about image, audio, video, data, and analysis and all. We have tried our level best to have speakers from IITs and industry to be a part of this particular FDP. So there are times some of the speakers will be talking about textual data, some will talk about the numeric data through Excel files, some will talk about audio, video data, so that you have a holistic approach of handling the data. Because if I say that I'm handling a numeric data, the algorithm that works for numeric data will not work for image data. The algorithm that works, or the deep neural architecture that works for image data, may not work for audio or video data. For every data, that the way of handling is different. For example, if I don't know how many of you are married and children, but if you have, you can fairly understand that the way of handling one child is different from the way you handle your another child. So for every child, the way is different. Similarly, for handling different data, the algorithms and the techniques will be different. So it's not one solution fit all kind of data. So we will try during this week that holistic, at least introduction could be given. I cannot say that after 5 days you will be an expert in data science and handling image, audio, video data, but at least you will get an introduction. And if you are inquisitive enough, you will try your hands on handling these data and AI algorithms. And in between the sessions, you can ask the queries in case there are any. I just received a message from Dr. A. Supalakshmi. I know my slides, I could not complete all the slides. I will, in case in between some expert backs up at the last moment, I will try to handle another session and complete the PPT. In case all the experts, they take their scheduled lectures, I think it will be difficult for me to handle another session. I think that's all from my end.
Yes,
From
ma'am.
tomorrow, do we need to get laptops? Are there any hands-on? In case there are any, you will be informed on the WhatsApp group only. And I request people to, go a little back on the WhatsApp group. There are times there is a single question but asked by 10 different people at 10 different times. So my organizing committee, they keep on, saying the same thing 10 times. So it requires a lot of energy and time from my end. Anyways, if you ask for that, we are there to conduct this FDP smoothly. We'll be doing that. But it will be helpful if you can just go back a little while over the WhatsApp, and you may find the reply for your question over there itself. Sakshi, I think that's all from my end. If
Okay,
all
ma'am.
are okay, then we can leave it, I think.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
thank you, Sakshi and Archita, for handling the session so well. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, ma'am. So, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Indira Gandhi Delhi Technical University for Women, I, Sakshi Patel, would like to take this opportunity to express my heartfelt thanks to Nidhi ma'am for such an amazing session and an insightful and splendid presentation. Dear ma'am, we are very grateful for the time and effort you took to share your thoughts and experiences with us. We have learned so many new things about data science and artificial intelligence from you, and we look forward to learning more. Also, we hope that you can join us again. Thank you so much for the highly inspiring time with us. Thanks to the whole audience for your unwavering attention throughout this session. We look forward to having you again in our next session. Thank you so much, ma'am, for such an insightful session. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Archita. And thank you all the participants who have been over here for the last 2 hours and listening patiently. I would have loved if this session could have been done, in the physical mode and in interactive mode. That adds, a lot of zeal to the uh, person who is taking the lecture and among the participants also. But nevertheless, it has been a very good experience. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Sakshi. I'm leaving now.